Guitar Heroes, Eric Andreas, your Guitar Sage here. Friends, let me ask you, do you want to understand how to read musical notation for the guitar? Do you want to learn how to play guitar by reading just like you would a book? Or do you have a musical passage that you just need to decipher and you just need some quick tips here to get to understand that? Or are you new to this journey and you really just want a really super easy way, someone to show you the exact way to do it that's going to be super easy and really get you a good foundation in reading music? Well, friends, if you answered yes to any of those, you're in the right place, because today I'm going to be showing you basic music reading for the guitar. In fact, I'll be showing you musical notation here in this video in 3 easy steps. You want to do it? Here we go. My friends, if you are new to watching my videos, then welcome. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button and also hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all the amazing videos that I'm producing here for you for free. And we'll give you access to the free giveaways that we do. We give away thousands of dollars worth of guitars and goodies every single month. So you know what to do. Hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's get on with this video. Okay, so I'm going to break this down in 3 easy steps. The first one's going to be spaces and lines, notes, ledger lines, and a little bit of musical notation. So basically, the only thing we're going to be doing here is talking about actually reading the notes, not the duration of the notes or anything like that. That's going to be in the part 2. The duration of notes, rests, that sort of thing. So that's our part 2. And part 3 is miscellaneous, okay? Miscellaneous could be a lot bigger, but I'm just going to be telling you the things that you need to know today, okay? Because there's lots of little notations that we're not going to be covering today, because I really want to use Pareto's rule here, which is 80% of the stuff that you need to know can be summarized in about 20% of the knowledge. If you know those 20% of the right things, you'll be able to do 80% of the job. That's the purpose of what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so step 1, here we go. Now, step 1, basically this right here is called the staff. These lines, there's 5 lines. And then you see this guy right here, this is called a treble clef. Basically, it's circling the G line here. We're gonna go over that in a minute. But essentially what that tells you is that you're in the treble staff. Now, a grand staff is going to have treble, and then it's going to have bass. Guitar players, we don't need to worry about that. We're not playing down below. Now, there are lines sometimes that will come above the staff or below the staff. Those are called ledger lines, and here's an example of 3 of them. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we're going to talk about sharp, flat, and naturals. So essentially, when we're looking at the staff, we have 5 lines and we've got 4 spaces in between there, right? Makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we got 5 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Well, one of the things that we want to know is we've got to know the names of those lines and those spaces, so that when there's a dot on it, we can say, okay, that note is a blank. So the circles that are going to be represented on the lines and on the spaces will designate where on the guitar you should play it, or at least what note you should play. On guitar, you can typically play one particular note several times on the guitar, except for the lower notes, you can't do that. Some of the higher notes you can't, but many of the notes on the guitar you can play multiple places. Don't get confused with that. For right now, we're just talking about hitting any one of these notes. So if it's a high E, like the high open E string, you could play it on 6 different places on the guitar. Musical notation doesn't tell you exactly where to play that. Tablature does, but there's some rules for that. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Essentially here, we just need to know the names of the notes here. And the spaces, this is how to remember it, space, F-A-C-E. So remember space, face, or face, space. So the spaces are F-A-C-E. That's the name of the notes. This is going to become clearer as we talk more, okay? So hang in there. The lines are, every good boy does fine. So remember, fine, line, okay? Every good boy does fine are on the lines. Face, space. Every good boy does fine, right? That's a mnemonic for understanding the letters here, which is E, G, B, D, F, right? Musical alphabet goes from A to G. So we're not going to have an H, I, J, K, L, M, and a P or anything like that, okay? It's just A through G, and then it starts over again. And if we analyze this here, we're just going to start at this A. We have an A for this space, and then a B for that line, and a C for that space, and a D for that line, and an E for that space, and an F for that line. And same thing if we went down here. It starts over again, right? So the alphabet just go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it just goes up. So if we were looking at the entire sequence here, the bottom line starts on an E, and that would be the second fret of the fourth string. That's an E, the second fret of the fourth string. And that would be represented by this E right here. Whereas this E would be up one octave. Wherever you play that on the guitar, it would be up one octave, okay? The high E string would work for you. So, check it out. We have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It just goes up. But remember, every other line, or every other, we go a line and a space, a line and a space, a line and a space. So with that being said, that's how the notes would line up. So let's say if we had a note right here, well, that would be an F, okay? Makes sense, right? Now, we also have these things called sharps and flats. A sharp is when we raise a note, a flat's when we lower a note. So for instance, if we had an F sharp, something like that, if that's what our note looked like, then we would know to take the F and play it, but play it up a half step because it's sharpened, okay? Same thing if there was a flat symbol in front of it, like this. You're gonna have to pardon my terrible writing, but there you go. Then that would be an F flat, or also known as an E. Now, certain times you'll see flats and sharps on certain notes and not on others. We won't get into all that today, but nonetheless, that's what a sharp or flat does. Is you can think about the note as it normally is by that name, but then raise it or lower it. And a natural just means leave it alone. Now, why would you need that? Is if you had a piece of music where there was a bunch of sharps, you were playing F sharp a lot, and then all of a sudden they wanted you to play an F natural, they're gonna put that in there to remind you, hey, you've been playing F sharp a lot, make it natural this time. So there you go. Now, we mentioned the ledger lines here. So if this is the second fret of the fourth string, right, then there's notes that are lower than that. So we can just go backwards here. E, right, what's before that? D, this would be a C, this would be a B, this would be an A, this would be a G, this would be an F, and then this lowest note down here would be an E. So that would be your low E, or your open E, which would be 3 ledger lines below the staff. That's your low E, okay? All right, that's it for part 1. I just want you to get a basic idea there of where the notes are on the fretboard. Let's look at part 2. Okay, let's talk about number 2, part 2, step 2, which is duration, how long that specific note or rest is held out. So we typically divide things into fractions like whole, half, quarter, eighth notes, 16th notes, 30 seconds, that sort of thing. So we subdivide just like regular fractions. So a measure typically represents 4 beats, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that's a measure. And if we had one whole note in it, then we would just hold that, we'd pluck that on the 1, we'd hold it out for 4 beats. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop. A half note, we could fit 2 of those in a measure. So 1 whole note equals 2 half notes equals 4 quarter notes. And this is just what they look like. A whole note has just a plain old circle with nothing in it. And the half notes are the circle with the stem coming up, which usually goes up an octave up from wherever you're at. So if you're on, let's say the E here, it's going to go all the way up to the middle of the E line. If you were, say, on the F here, then it would go all the way up to the F line. Just if you want to know how long the stem is. These are called stems. And so we have a whole note, which is equal to 2 half notes. Think about it like a dollar. A dollar, you could have 2 half dollars, which would also equal to 4 quarters. So we have 4 quarter notes. And if we wanted to go further than that, we would start creating flags on these, okay? So that would turn that note from a quarter note to an eighth note. If we added another flag on it, it would turn it into a 16th note. If we did another flag, it would turn it into a 32nd note, a 64th note, etc., etc. And we're going to take that off because otherwise our little equation here isn't going to add up. But you would add flags to make that half of its worth. Now sometimes you'll see a dot behind something, and a dot just means to add half of the note that it's following, just add it to that. So for instance, if we had a dot following this half note, if this is equal to 4 beats, now we would be holding it out for 6 beats because half of 4 is 2, and you go 4 plus 2 is equal 6. So that would hold that, you'd hold that out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and stop. If we did that for a half note's equal to 2. Half of 2 is 1, so 2 plus 1 is 3. So if that dot was right there, you would hold it out for 1, 2, 3, and stop. If it were behind a quarter note is just like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 quarter notes. Then we would do one whole beat and a half. So we'd go and it would be off. Okay, a little bit harder to demonstrate, but that's what the dots do. Also, if we tie notes together, that also creates, we don't play the same notes. So for instance, if these are equal in duration, how long it is, right? So even though they don't sound the same. So in this one, we would just go boom, 2, 3, 4, and stop. This second here, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 actual notes that you would hear, whereas here's 4, you'd hear 1, 2, 3, 4. So even though the duration of each one of these is the same amount of time that all of it takes up, it still sounds differently because that's 4 actual notes that you're hearing. Here's 2 actual notes that you're hearing, and this is just 1 that's held out for 4 beats. So, and you could do the same thing, like basically this is a half note, and if we wanted to signify this as being the same as a half note, then we could tie these together. And there are reasons why that we won't get into because I'm just showing you the basics here. But essentially that's called a tie. Right underneath it looks like a little smiley face. It connects those notes together. So we talked about dots, we talked about the lines, we talked about the stems, right? Yeah, and so there's others, okay? We mentioned the 16th notes, the 8th notes, we're adding the flags, the 16th, we're adding another flag, 32nd, that's how we're adding other flags. Now, you're gonna have to pardon my penmanship. I was terrible and still terrible at handwriting, and you can see my drawing is absolutely terrible. But let's talk about rests for just a moment here. So a rest is when we're not playing a note, right? In this case here, this would be a whole rest. So if you see the line, you're going to have this square, this little rectangle colored in underneath that line. So you'll see a line, and then you'll see like that little rectangle. Thank you very much. I failed geometry. Right underneath that, bingo bango. That means you just don't play anything for a whole measure. That's easy enough, isn't it? Right? And then that would equal to 2 half rests. So this is a whole rest. These are 2 half rests, and you can think of them like a top hat. So now that rectangle is on top of the line. And then these are our quarter rests. All right, that's it on duration. Let's look at step 3, which is miscellaneous. All right, let's look at the part 3 of this, which is miscellaneous, right? Now, miscellaneous could have a lot more things here, but I'm really just giving you the stuff that you're going to use the most. Otherwise, this video would be much longer than it is, and you would get very bored, okay? So I'm gonna give you this stuff, the main stuff that you need, and then that's gonna take care of like at least 80% of all the stuff you're looking at. Remember Pareto's rule, right? If we learn the right 20% of a specific subject, we can do 80% of the job. But you gotta learn the right stuff in the right order. That's how I teach all my stuff inside the Unstoppable Guitar System, my stuff online here, because that's the easy and the most efficient way and the smart way to do things. So this is miscellaneous. We can go really long with it, but the things we're gonna be talking about are time signature, key signature, tempo, beaming, dynamics, and some other notation, because really, there's lots of things that we could put into our musical notation. But again, it becomes less and less that you're going to see them. Let's tackle the stuff that we're going to see all the time, right? Cool, let's talk about time signature. So time signature, right here you can see 4/4. That's the most common time signature. What that means is you're going to have 4 quarter notes that make up a measure. So a measure is, well, that's a measure right there. So if we had a whole note sitting right here, that would be a measure. Okay, let's say it was another measure, or let's say it was the same measure, a different measure. We could have 2 half notes there, or we could have 4 quarter notes. But nonetheless, 4 quarter notes, we've got 4 of them, 4 quarter notes that would make up a measure. What that does is that tells us, okay, this is the, how to proceed through the song. You're going to be looking at this in blocks. And if we're thinking about time, it's very easy, or much easier to look at when we say block, 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 as opposed to it just being this stream of notes, right? So in this case here, that's what we're talking about, the time signature. Now, if this were, let's say this were 3/4, okay? A song that's in 4/4 would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to have that accent on the 1 usually, right? So something that's in 3/4 would be like more like a waltz, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And it sounds a lot like 6/8, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Because we have 6/8 notes in a measure at that point, okay? So if we wanted to make this accurate, we would need to color this note in to have a half note and a quarter note, because if it's 3/4, there should only be 3 beats in that particular measure. Does that make sense? So we've got the time signature, and we have something called key signature. And we're not going to really delve into that because that would be another 15 minutes at least. We're not going to do that, but we're going to talk about it. Typically, right after the staff or the clef, the treble clef in this case for guitar, you're going to either see nothing on there, which would mean you're in the key of C or A minor, or you might see some sharps and flats and what have you. Well, those sharps and flats determine what notes should be sharped and which notes should be flatted. It's usually one or the other, and unless you have what we call accidentals, but typically in this case here, you have one sharp here, which is an F, and if you were to take the C major scale, which has no sharps or flats, and you sharpen to the F, now all of a sudden, that tonal center is going to lean towards the key of G. And in fact, this key signature right here denotes to a musician who knows this, hey, you're going to be in the key of G. Just remember when that F comes up, sharp it, and then we're going to be all good, right? If you don't sharp it, it's going to feel more like the key of C. So a little bit about key signatures are basically it's going to tell you which notes should be sharped or flattened, okay? So in this piece of music, if you didn't see a natural symbol before anything, then all the notes will be natural except for the F, and the F every time you would play it would be sharpened. Make sense? So that's what the key signature does. Now there's 12 different keys, 12 different key signatures. We're not going to get into them all right now. Maybe I'll do another video on that, but just that's a basic idea of key signatures, and there's probably some great videos on how to figure those out really quickly. I do know some tricks, but we're not getting into that today. Okay, tempo. Tempo, things like largo, adagio, moderato, allegro, presto. These are, and in that order is all speeds, different tempos, right? That we can play something, the tempo at which something is played. So something that would be slow would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is somewhat of a subjective subject, but at the same time, we can measure that. We can quantify that and say, okay, that is slow, and that fits in this particular beats per minute, right? If our heart is beating at 60 beats per minute, well, that's 1 every second, right? So be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So that would be an example of 60 beats per minute, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that sort of thing. That's going to be more like 120. I'm just guessing there, okay? Just an idea. All right, so tempo is how fast is the tempo of the song. How fast is the song? Slow or fast? And all different ranges there. Now, beaming. I wanted to mention this because beaming is something that we can do to make things look a little bit better in sheet music. Okay, so for instance, if we had, let's say we have 4 16th notes, okay? We had 4 16th notes, and it might look something like this. Now remember, a quarter note is just the stem like that. And then an eighth, I said 16th notes. Yeah, we'll talk about 16th notes as well. But in this case here, if this is a quarter note, if we wanted to make it an eighth note, right, we're going to throw a little flag on it. And we could do the same right here and the same thing here, etc., etc. But now when we're looking at that, it looks like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to play those really fast. But the way the mind works is it likes to group things up. So what we want to do is we can beam these together, which means you just you've seen that before, right? So that would be the same amount of information, except it's all clumped together and it makes a lot more sense to the musical mind. It may not make sense to you right now, but as you start delving into this more, you're going to find out that beaming really helps you to keep notes grouped together. Now, if this were 16th notes, right? We made it, one flag makes it an 8th note. No flags with the darkened symbol here makes the darkened note makes it a quarter note. But when we throw that flag on there, now it's an 8th note. If we throw another flag on there, now we got 16th notes. And if we throw a third flag on there, it would be 32nd notes, fourth flag, 64th notes. So now, same thing, we can beam them like that. So just remember about beaming. Dynamics has to do with the loudness or softness of something. So just like tempo, we have slow, fast, and with dynamics, with music, if we don't have some sort of dynamics, then it gets very boring, right? If I talk to you like this the whole time and it was just completely monotone and I didn't change the volume or the pitch or anything like that, you get really bored really quickly, right? But if I'm talking like this, then you get more excited. I'm excited about this. This is exciting stuff, right? So dynamics is basically the loudness or softness of something. And there's many different ways that we can talk about this, fortissimo, pianissimo, it's all different symbol or all different words that are derived from old school ways of writing musical notation. So some of those you're going to see here. We're not going to delve into those other than just to know that there are things called dynamics, and you're going to see that in music, okay? One of the most important ones, though, is decrescendo and crescendo, okay? Decrescendo is when we're getting quieter, and crescendo is when we're getting louder. And it looks something like this. You can think about this as this area here is bigger than this area, it's smaller. So if we had notes going like this and we had that symbol underneath it, then your eye would catch that, and you get really quick at this stuff in time. And this would mean for these 4 notes to get quieter as they're going along. Now, can't perfectly quantify that, but there's some basic common sense that kicks in. So that's decrescendo, and then crescendo would be like this. It's getting louder. Okay, those are the 2 most common ones that you're going to see. Okay, so some other notation are fingering, frets, expression, and even more than that. So what I'm talking about here is, especially when we're looking at guitar music, there's specific fingerings, right? Just like the high E, right? If you play this note right here, this high E can be played 6 different places on the guitar. Okay, the low E can only be played in one place on the guitar. So sometimes you're going to experience notes that can be played in different places, and with guitar notation, oftentimes you might see a suggestion from whoever wrote it or whoever arranged the piece where the fingering is, what finger you should use on what string. Same thing with the frets. It'll actually tell you sometimes you'll see that, but most often it's denoted in fingering, because if we know what the note is and we know what finger we're using, what position of the neck, it's something else too. Oftentimes you'll see what position of the neck with classical music. Then we know what frets to use. Expression. Now, many different ways that you can express yourself musically, and so when you're writing this down, there's as many ways that you can express yourself musically. It's on paper, so as many ways on paper that you could write these expressions would equate to as many ways as you can express yourself with music. So there's a lot of different ways. There are things like accents, like you saw something like this, and all of a sudden there's going to be a specific accent. You're going to see that written over that note, which is going to make you accent that note more, or say like staccato notes, right? You're going to see something like that. It means to play it sharply. We're not going to get into all those because there's many different things, but just know there's lots of different ways that we can express ourselves when it comes to music, and it's truly important that you have a basic idea of this. I just want to give you the basic scenario here just with these 3 steps, all right? My friends, that's the video right there. Please hit thumbs up if you liked this video. If you got something out of it, please, that lets me know that you truly appreciate this and that this video helped you. Also, leave your comments below. This is a community, right? And when you guys leave your comments below, you're helping other people. So there's going to be stuff that I didn't cover here specifically. The video would be too long. So this is where you come in. And if you can help others out, see where in the chat there they're having some difficulty, then go ahead and put your 2 cents in. Help the kids out. This is what YouTube's all about. It's what these videos are all about, is to help the world, right? So please do that right now, my friends. Leave that comment, hit that like button. And friends, we are all over the web, and we have so many amazing things for you to help you play guitar. Number one, the most important thing, YourGuitarSage.com/30. I'll put that link inside the description of this video. So literally the 30 most important guitar lessons you will ever take in your life. How do I know this? Because I've only taught a few thousand one-on-one lessons and several thousand video lessons. This is my life. This is what I do, and I love it. And I've found that over the years that there's certain ways, certain lessons that one needs to have before other lessons, and if they learn it in this specific order, they can knock it out of the park every single time, as long as they don't quit. But what happens is a lot of people get frustrated with guitar because they leapfrog and they're jumping here and they're watching this YouTube video and this guy and that girl and this guy, and all of a sudden they're really confused because they're not learning things in order anymore. So if you went to school, you're not going to go to 5th grade before you went to 1st grade, right? Got to learn things in order. That's what this course is all about, YourGuitarSage.com/30. Go there. Link is in the description of this video. Also, I'm on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all those places where the kids hang out. We give away thousands of dollars worth of amazing goodies every single month. That's right. This Stratocaster's going away. I got a Les Paul Gold Top over there going away here in just about a week. So friends, take advantage of this. I give tons of stuff away, literally thousands of dollars worth of goodies. Take advantage of this. I'm here for you. Any questions that you might have, hit me up on those social media bits too, as I get to questions there. Friends, I'm here for you. I want to help you to play guitar. Please let me know how I can do that better. I got tons of free resources for you. All right, my friends, that's it. You know what to do. Be kind to all beings. Do the right thing always. Practice your guitar. I'll see you in the next video.